It was back in the 1940s, in the early 1940s, when a young student approached Dr. Einstein's office. Without losing a beat, she turned to Dr. Einstein and said, "Sir, you made a mistake. You have given the exact same questions for the second year running in our final exam." Dr. Einstein turned, looked at the young student, and said, "The questions are the same, but the answers since last year have changed." And the exact same thing holds true, my dear friends, for us. Questions like, how do I grow professionally? How do I expand personally? How do I help my company survive and thrive in an ever-changing, technologically advanced market where change is the only constant? How do I increase my income? How do I create meaningful relationships both on a personal and professional level? And last but not least, the most important and burning question during today's TEDx, how do I connect better? 3 years ago, I made a discovery, one that profoundly changed the way I perceived and acted upon connecting. It's a simple discovery. It took 3 years to discover, but less than a TED Talk to explain. It is not the answer towards better connecting, but it's rather a framework through which one can connect better and can understand connecting in a much meaningful way. It is not the answer because, as Albert Einstein has correctly pinpointed to the young lady, the questions are the same, but the answers keep shifting, they keep changing, they keep eluding us. Whereas a framework is a steady friend, a steady companion, an ally that we can have by our sides whilst we try to build meaningful relationships through connections. What you now see on your screen is the formula that I came up with, the circle of connecting. And it all starts right at the top. It all starts right at the top, working its way clockwise. And it starts with the individual. It starts with you. It takes a leader to fully take full responsibility for connecting with another person or another entity. Even the late and legendary Steve Jobs knew this very well. I remember reading in Walter Isaacson's book about Steve Jobs, when he picked up the phone himself personally and called an unknown Louis Stancer to congratulate him for downloading the 10th billion song on iTunes. He even offered him a $10,000 iTunes reward card because Steve Jobs knew that some connections need to be taken personally. And great people, great connectors, they don't only take it personally, but they find the right mediums in which to connect. In Liberia, for example, over 60% of the population is completely illiterate. That means 6 out of 10 Liberians cannot read or write. So politicians take it upon themselves to connect with their voters. And they do it through the Liberian traditional music, the hip-hop music. And through the verses of the songs, they touch the souls, the hearts, and the minds of their perspective or of their existing voters. So it takes a certain kind of attitude moving to the second circle to connect. Because people might hear your words, but they will feel your attitude. And I remember when I was younger, working for our family business back home, I read a study by IBM. And the study said that even the best customer service companies in the world lose 10% of their customers each year. And you know what's the number one reason for losing those customers? It is sheer indifference. And indifference for me spells out 2 things: the wrong attitude, and secondly, we fail to make a connection. And I remember my father's words when he used to be our chief executive officer. Michael, never stop training our people for attitude and never stop thinking outside the box. And because of the study I read and my father's words, I came up with a very simple solution in improving attitudes. It was titled The Mistake of the Month. And each and every colleague of ours at Virardi could enter this competition under two conditions. First, they had to have made a mistake, and secondly, they had to have recovered from their mistakes. It was very clear at that time that the reciprocity principle of social psychology said that if you make a mistake and you recover fast, people or customers for that matter, or your beloved ones, they want to give you something back in return. And what they've given us as a company was their loyalty, was their connection at another level. So we managed to bring down that 10% of lost customers down to 7.5. And we managed to save $450,000 within a year of introducing the mistake of the month. Because going back to our circle, it takes a committed individual with a certain kind of attitude that leads it to the third part, which is the little extra. It was a famous football coach who said the phrase that I believe you all know, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. And as I travel the world and I speak to audiences, I always ask them one question, which I also ask myself. Why be ordinary when you can be extraordinary by giving that little extra? And to illustrate this circle, I thought long and hard, and I found a very vivid example which takes only 45 seconds, and it is a short video that we're about to watch. Let's watch the video for this circle. Because I work for FedEx. It's that little extra that comes from your commitment to communicate and connect better with the ones you love or with your customers. That little extra in delighting those that come in contact with you. That little extra in surpassing their expectations. Because if you do all these three things, then it all leads to relationships. And I remember reading in this gentleman's book about a phrase that really struck a chord with me. For those of you who don't know this gentleman, his name is Howard Schultz, and he's the CEO of Starbucks. Howard Schultz said in his book, "We are not in the coffee business serving people. We are in the people business serving coffee." And the same holds true for us, my dear friends. We are not in the business that we chose serving people. We are in the people business happening to serve the products or the services that we opted for. And in the people business, my friends, relationship is the glue that brings everything together. And moving on to the last circle, in the circle of trust, if you can press enter, please, from back there. You can press enter. And moving on to the last circle of the circle of connecting is trust. And I thought, again, long and hard, which example does trust really illustrate? Another press, thank you. And the best example I could think of was the Spartan warriors. And the Spartan warriors, one of the most formidable armies in the world, were not the strongest because of their muscles, not even because of their spears, but they were the strongest because of their shields and the way they kept them together. Because as young kids, they were trained and they were told, you either come back home on your shield, you either come back home with your shield, or you come back home on your shield. And it is the same shield the same shield of trust that we should all bring together in our everyday interactions if we would like to communicate and connect better. Because if you bring this shield of trust with you on a daily basis, my dear friends, you will have into the old burning questions all the new answers. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.